Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Hope you bring guys a new video, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 glow-up mons for Regulation H. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about the 5 Pokemon that have had the biggest glow-up going into Regulation H. Glow-up is when you weren't really that great, and now you're amazing, so... these are Pokemon that might have changed their fate just based on this one rule set, which is kind of crazy, honestly, that some of these Pokemon are now getting usage that might have never seen usage before. And we'll definitely talk about those. If you've been keeping up with the tournament circuit, there's been some really interesting teams that have been topping some of these tournaments, and it's going to be interesting to see if they are able to translate going into Baltimore. That happens in a couple of weeks now. This is going to be the first regional using this rule set. We will have 2 regionals for this rule set. One is in Europe, I believe. The other one is in Baltimore. But let's just get right into this list. So these are the top 5 glow-up mons. I want to do some honorable mentions before we get straight into it. We got Talonflame, who has been pretty good in the past, but hasn't really done much since maybe Regulation A or B, maybe even C, but has really fallen off, so we're going to throw him up there. Then we got Pokemon like Murkrow, who have become very good, but once again haven't been good since about Regulation B, I think. Then we got Basiligian. This is a Pokemon that has had to fight through some of these harder regulations. One of the cases being that we had Fluttermane, which was really good against it. So now that that's gone, it really has a place in the meta. The reasons why it's not higher is because it is competing for that water spot with a couple of Pokemon you'll see on here. Next, we have Dondozo. Dozo is back. The reason why it's not on top is because we've seen Dozo do very well for the past forever. And even in Regulation G, it has done pretty well at the World Championships, at least. Primarina. Primarina has been a Pokemon that has been okay in the past. And once again, the reason why it's not higher is because Basiligian, I feel like, is just a stronger option. But there are team compositions where Primarina is probably the best fairy type. But I just felt like it wasn't strong enough to really make the list. And then we got Hisuian Zoroark. This is a Pokemon that definitely could be high up on the list soon. But for right now, it's kind of lower as people do try to figure out how to use it. But I think it is very good. But let's get right into the top 5 here. Number 5, we have Hisuian Decidueye. This Pokemon has been pretty good at the early format. Now it is starting to drop off a little bit. It got a couple of first place finishes in some of these tours. Nothing really too big. But the reason why I put it ahead of everything else is because nobody thought this Pokemon would be good. It does get scrappy with triple arrows, which allows it to actually hit something like that Goldango for super effective, which is a really interesting interaction. Leaf Blade does a lot of damage into some of the water types like Dondozo, especially with that higher crit chance. Upper Hand allows you to stop fake outs. It gets Haze, which, you know, is really good once again against Dondozo, and Close Combat just for max amounts of damage. We often see this thing holding like the Scope Lens or the Razor Claw to increase that crit chance, but we've seen Assault Vest, Focus Sash, and Life Orb on it too. Scrappy makes it so it can't have its attack lowered, so there's no need for anything like that either. So I felt like this was a good place for number 5 just because it's such an off-the-wall Pokemon. Like, people knew Primarina was going to be pretty good. People knew that Basiligian was good. People knew that Hisuian Zoroark is good. Like, but nobody thought the Hisuian Decidueye was going to be anything at all. So, number 5 for sure. The glow up is crazy. Next, we have Gengar, and we know Gengar has been a world champion in the past. But this is a Pokemon that was way overlooked ever since the game has dropped, because it has been in the game. But now we're seeing it. There's a specific team comp that you might see down below that has been very good. Actually, is it? Yeah, it is on this list. that has been very, very good that a couple of players are using, and it's kind of taking over the meta at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see if it keeps increasing. As you can see, he has quite a few first place finishes. He's using Curse Body with Icy Wind, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, Haze, and Protect. Haze making an appearance again, and the Focus Sash is the only item this thing has really used. I did see one that had choice specs, but it also didn't perform too well, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. For Terras, which I did forget to put Terras on these lists, I do apologize for that. For Decidueye, it's mostly fire, but there are some people who are using Ghost on there too for some reason. And on here, we do have Poison for the most part. I have seen Stellar, which could also be pretty good just to do more damage. I think the Poison is just to maximize Sludge Bomb damage and get rid of your Ghost weakness. But I don't know if that's super relevant or not. So this is just kind of a supporty Pokemon that can do some stuff. I do still like Substitute Disable on this Pokemon too. I think it's super underrated. But Curse Body can just win you some games sometimes, which is fun. So number 3, we got Hydreigon, and I know. Everybody's like, well, Hydreigon was one of the best in, Regulation A, and I guess it wasn't in B. That's when it died, right? The reason why I'm putting it here is because the fact that it has come back as strong as it has, as you can see, it has so many first place finishes. It takes 2 lists of first place finishes. This is a very strong Pokemon. Into like the glow up is crazy. Yes, it was very good in Regulation A, but it wasn't putting up results like it is now. And also on top of that, it has no fairy type that's really contesting it, so you can just maximize your damage output, especially with that scope lens. We see very similar items that we saw on Decidueye. We get the Razor Claw, the scope lens, Life Orb, Assault Vest even, and of course choice specs. Just damage. And there's just so many team comps that he can be on that I felt like he's had a glow up. He was forgotten about as soon as Regulation B started and Fluttermane was around, and now he is back, stronger than ever. Very good Pokemon, and something you really have to prepare for. You don't want to be taking those Draco Meteors when they're critting every single time, because you're not going to stay long. We've seen Levitate, Dark Pulse, Draco Meteor, Focus Energy, Protect, and of course Heat Wave. The Heat Wave is kind of like a meh move, I think. And we saw a lot of Steel Terra. I've seen Poison Terra still. I've even seen Dragon Terra just for extra damage, I assume. So you could still do quite a few things with this, but it has been a very good Pokemon. Number 2 is going to be that Aqua Tauros. We saw Fire Tauros being actually really good in Regulation A, but it really dropped off, and now Water Tauros is kind of taking that position. This is a very strong Pokemon that is on the same team comp as that Gengar, and really playing a pivotal role with that Intimidate and using Mirror Herb just in cases like a Annihilate, and then you get a boost, and then you're pressuring the Annihilate as well. Close Combat, Wave, Crash, Aqua Jet, Protect, and High Horsepower are the most common moves. We have, a couple of Terras that it's using, but it's mostly Grass, so I would expect to see Grass if you are facing this or you do plan on using it. And it's going to have either that Clear Amulet, which I guess is fine because it's good against other Intimidate users. But mostly I think you're going to see the Mirror Herb. There's also Assault Vest and Life Orb, which I also don't really like too much. But as you could see, a lot of it is the same team comp that this thing is on, and that team has been doing ridiculously well. And by looking at this list, you might be able to guess what number 1 is. That's right. It's a Pokemon that's never really seen usage, and its baby form is considered 10 times better than it, and that's Clefable. Clefable has been dominating on that same team as we have seen that Gengar and that Tauros on too. It is a very strong team, and one of the reasons is because of this Pokemon. It just kind of beats like Dondozo. That whole setup just beats Dondozo. It's very good. Unaware, Moonblast, Follow Me, Helping Hand, Protect, and Skill Swap. Giving Skill Swap to one of your Pokemon to give it Unaware is just very, very good. We see Citrus Berry, Goggles, Rocky Helmet, and the Mental Herb. We see Grass Terra a little bit, but mostly I've seen Electric Terra on this Pokemon, which is really, really cool, and a little bit of Water Terra as well. Makes it so it's not weak to Goldango, which is kind of important. Moonblast does some pretty decent damage and pressures, you know, like Hydreigon. Follow Me is just taking away those attacks going into your partner Pokemon. Can really help survive there. Helping Hand, of course, makes you do more damage. Protect. And Skill Swap, like I said, you give Unaware to your own Pokemon. You can also cycle with Intimidate with the Tauros, which is really, really cool. So there's some really, really interesting strats that you can use with this. It's just a really interesting Pokemon. And the team seems very hard to use. I haven't used it, but it just doesn't seem like a team I would perform very well with. But if you give this thing Flame Body, you're probably doing all right? So, anyways, guys, that is it. Those are the top 5 glow-up mons, in my opinion, going into Regulation H. Whether or not these will do well at Baltimore, I'm not really sure, but I do expect to see this Pokemon right here, over there. I can't point the right way. Sometime on stream, because that team seems to be very, very strong. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure you guys thumbs it up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.